At the end of 2023, two additional actions have taken place in Ukraine, Russia conflict, and the Middle East. The first one is that Mr. Zelensky has said that he will mobilize up to 500,000 more persons. And keeping in mind the current forces, that will take it across 1 million persons. We will be analyzing this briefly in terms of what the economic impact of this will be. Russia has said that 170,000 more troops may be mobilized. That also takes its standing army to more than 1 million. But we have to remember that Russia is number of times more population and area, etc., and resources than Ukraine is. Ukraine is being supported by the US, though they have a 50-member support committee, 50 country support committee. But that's primarily for military aid. He's already short of ammunition, everything has been blown off, etc. And the spring offensive did not yield any results. There is a standoff there. Referendum was held. They decided in the Donbass region to join Russian Federation, so also Crimea. And again there will be elections along with the elections of Russia. And after that, the fate of those will be sealed. And of course, as per international law, an area of a country can, through referendum, without resorting to arms, opt out of the earlier association through a referendum process. And the second major thing is that USA, surprisingly, along with the 11 other nations, has formed a 12-nation new maritime mission in Red Sea. Ostensibly, it is to fight Houthis who seem to be disturbing the shipping. A couple of ships they have captured also, but reasons could be multiple. It seems no casualties have taken place. But Mr. Austin, the Secretary of Defense of USA, went around to Israel and a couple of other countries and has on his own announced that it has been decided. He is announcing the formation of this new maritime mission very inaptly, very inappropriately, very incorrectly called the Operation Prosperity Guardian. There is no defined enemy except that the shipping will not be disturbed. The list is surprising. We will come to it, starting with Canada plus Italy plus France, Spain, except Germany, all the major powers of Europe, and then Seychelles. Seychelles, small island of formerly Indians, joining a new maritime mission in Red Sea. They are no close to Red Sea. These are funny combinations. Excuses. Two, that is what is our analysis. Whether the actions being taken by certain powers increase the conflict, increase the chances of peace, increase the chances of durable peace, increase the chances of humanitarian action against the Israeli indiscriminate bombing, or do they reduce it? This action, of course, will tend to broaden the war. And from Israel-Gaza conflict, already they had positioned ships, US warships in Mediterranean, and now they will have this joint maritime mission within the Red Sea, maybe close to the Babel-Mandel Strait, through which 7% of the oil is shipped and other goods stored. So this is a very negative input. On one hand, a number of associations like Arab League, African Union, China, Russia, Brazil, BRICS have made proposals for peace in Ukraine and in the Middle East. And UN has passed a number of resolutions, though in the Security Council, uh, USA has been the lone opposer of all these proposals for ceasefire or even temporary ceasefire, humanitarian ceasefire, um, um, and so on. It's quite normal. It has been, the various wars, including Vietnam and Iran and so on, that at least there is a pause during the Muslim festivals and the Christmas season. They don't seem to be minding that also because Israel is Jewish, what I think. And um, the next thing is that they have pushed about 2 million people out of their homes and bombarded them indiscriminately and bombarded doctors, nurses, UN staff. Never so many UN staff have ever died in a battle, even in 10, 15 years in Iraq and other places. Be that as it may, um, we can then look at the economic impact, but it's a very, very hastily put out maritime mission, and they say that they will physically protect, but the military ships will not go along the regular commercial ship, and for sharing intelligence. Now, this is an admission that USA, with all its satellites, with all its listening posts, with all its military bases, etc., on its own does not have an intelligence of an area. That also in the sea, where vehicles are, where ships are out there to be seen by everybody and by all the satellites. This is really, really funny. Maybe this is to convince people who just don't know anything about what's the state of art on these things. On everything they say, we will share intelligence. So they are coming along for intelligence purposes. What? Now, the fact of the matter is, it will harden the stance of Turkey, which has already done sanctions, limited way. It has withdrawn from NATO. They have said that Ukraine should be allowed into the European Union. Hungary opposed it, but then let it go. It takes 3 to 4 years before they can be in. Process is that long. And Hungary has vetoed, in a sense, the $40 billion or so aid to Ukraine. The aid to Ukraine of $70 billion or so, and $200 billion have already been given. Fresh aid in the Congress, for one reason or the other, is now stuck. Without $70 billion from here and $40 billion from Europe, and contribution from Ukrainian background people settled in the US, Canada, etc. Ukraine cannot survive. It does not have money for medicines, but it wants money for the arms, and not realize the thing on the wall, that your spring offensive with all the NATO countries helping you and everything, you have not made any progress at all, and therefore are not likely to make it in the future. Because the Russian forces are stuck. Plus, they are going through the regular process of plebiscite, referendum, and become permanent part of the Russian Federation because they are Russian background people, Russian ethnic background people. Now let's therefore look at the economics. Goldman Sachs estimates that if Red Sea shipping is affected, and in my view, actually the maritime mission will affect it. Houthis have hardly touched the surface. Then price of the oil will go up by $4. Now it's not just the 7% which goes through Red Sea, which will have increased cost going via the other route and all that. this kind of impact will be on whole of the oil volume, because the Red Sea faring oil, 7% of that will be sufficient to push up the price. I mean, if it is withdrawn, it's not available. Then, so now what is the meaning of that? In one day, 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's say 100 million barrels of oil is produced and sells on an average. So, $4 per barrel means $400 million per day, which means $12 billion in a month. And it means $144 billion in a year. This is the immediate impact. And we are not looking at the other goods, spare parts, consumer durables, medicines, food, etc., etc. So why is US and Israel quoting this future, this kind of a negative impact? Now this starts explaining to some extent the names of the countries, like Norway. Norway is the biggest oil producer in Europe. And so presumably its transport also is going to be affected. So it joins. Canada has nothing to do with it, so far off, but joins, because it's always little brother along with the big brother USA. So they are going to create more problems. They are going to create more conflict. They're going to make the war more expensive. And in the end, of course, it affects the common man. Houthis seem to be supported by Iran. They have been using only what you might say air-related weapons, rockets and drones and so on and so forth. There is sufficient supply from Iran. USA is far away from this area. It doesn't have a command. Country by country, if you take Saudi Arabia and Houthis have had some problem earlier, throwing rockets at each other. But currently they are at peace with each other. US actually is the one which helped Saudi Arabia earlier beat the Houthis and created a civil war within Yemen, of South Yemen and North Yemen. But Houthis have a proper government there. They are not terrorists on the loose. They have nothing bad relationship with Jordan, Egypt, and other Arab countries. Arab countries have also said that if even ceasefire is not obtained, that Arab forces might consider a joint defense force. Only on the humanitarian basis. That the way you are treating Palestinian children, women, gents, everybody, and not letting them provide with the humanitarian aid also will not do. Now, let's briefly talk about the Ukraine. Let's finish the India context. India earlier did not go all out in support of the Palestinians and said both sections were bad and there should be ceasefire. Lately now they have said that ceasefire should be there. Yesterday it is reported there was a long chat between Mr. Modi and Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, and they may have talked about something. But Israeli government does not want about 100,000 construction workers and maybe even menial workers of Gaza Strip to continue to work, because now for the timing they pushed them out. And they have requested Indian government to provide labor for it. So India advantage. In parallel, and that's where you have to see how to connect the dots, that EU now, besides oil, has said that diamonds of Russia should not be bought by Europe, which means Antwerp, Brussels, that's all. Which means what? Will they sell it to Israel? No, they will probably sell it to India, because India has the world's largest diamond polishing industry. And their own bourse in Surat, which got inaugurated again day before yesterday, coincidentally, is the world's single largest building, bigger than Pentagon. India is now established in the diamond polishing industry very well. But this will be a connection will be between Israel and India because Israel has a better connection with all the major jewelers in the world because all of them are Jews, or most of them are Jews, let's put it that way. So that's the connection. So India will tend to gain either way. If Europe does not accept the diamonds of Russia, India will buy them in rupees terms from Russia. Why not? Hence it is quiet. And along with Israel, so Russia will not go out of the way to beat up Israel either, because there are some other relationships. It is trying to be helpful to the Palestinian cause. India has been neutral, but now shifting a little bit. Okay, so these are the two quick advantages. And of course, the IMEC project, which has to go through Yemen and then Jordan and then Israel and then to Greece. And that is the Gaza one. If there is a disturbance in the shipping in Red Sea, which is likely now, then Gaza as a port will benefit, which is owned by Adani's of India. Now, the raising of the troops by Ukraine is the most stupid decision, I would say, because few million have already been dead and wounded of Ukraine. Few million of the youngsters have left the country to go to other places. Basically, it is already becoming the woman of old, a country of old women and children. Russia also has lost few million people as out migration, and of course, maybe about 500,000 people dead and wounded. So cost is substantial. Russia has lost 1 or 2% of its GDP. Ukraine has lost 22% of its GDP already. The Black Sea Grain Initiative is not working. So farmers will not be able to put up another crop of wheat and other things. Its shipping is affected through BSGI substantially. None of this is affected for Russia actually, despite sanctions. So Europe is also foolhardy, just have this sanction on oil and end up paying 2 times, 3 times to USA primarily, or US companies, that is. So that's the cost of war to them. Now put it together, we had given an estimate in the earlier this thing that it will take about $1 trillion. Take 3. So what it boils down to is that every day Ukraine is adding debt on its head. Because mind you, also so-called aid is not grant. It's a combination of grant and aid. And the $70 billion package required now for a year, it's seeming difficult. So these are the costs which Ukraine has suffered and Russia has suffered, and now Israel will be suffering, because if Red Sea lanes are closed, if there are 12 countries trying to create problems, by the way, Ukraine is not part of this maritime mission, and unnecessarily dragging in Houthis and therefore the Iranians, and none of the Arab countries are going to oppose them. None of the Arab countries are going to oppose them. Hence, the support system of this new maritime mission will be very, very small. That has to be calculated. So, therefore, our net assessment is this specific action of US, of maritime mission, and of Europe to put sanctions on diamonds. They were all right last year, but now suddenly diamond should not be bought by the Europeans. They should be bought from Africans. Nah? That's what it means. And the Africans say, we don't want to sell it to Europeans. Slowly. And so it's only again the wise statesmen. It looks like to me It's only the China-Russia combination, and India won't be part of it, will in the end, along with Qatar, um, would end up becoming the guarantors of peace in this area, whether they impose it or they bring it about. They would like to just bring it about and not oppose it. So now, opening the second front by USA is hurting USA. Ukraine, Russia is not affected because its just forces are there. Their fighting already has gone to almost ceasefire stage. And whatever Zelensky might do, he is not going to get another 100 billion or 200 billion just to fight. So what is the capacity? Maximum 6 months, 3 months. And after that it will be over. So once your capacity is known that you can't fight beyond 3 months, another powerful force can always maneuver that. So we'll see how things develop. But personally, I am upset, both from analytical point of view and personal point of view, that this 12 power maritime, one of the powers is Seychelles, such a tiny island, a tiny number of people. Who is going to come and fight Houthis? It looks like not a mature power which does this. Anyways, we will follow these things up. India's opportunities, incidentally, are increasing on any one of these counts. So now it depends upon them that they keep their diplomacy right, as well as take care of the economic opportunities which this brings about. Thank you very much.